happy. Mental health issues have been shown to manifest earlier and earlier in life for us, a huge cause being the emergence of social media. Just be happy. The education on mental health has to start in our school systems. Schools are where our friendships begin. It's where we spend the majority of our teenage years. It's the place where we develop our sense of identity and self-worth. Schools are the place where our mental health is being put to the ultimate test as teens. So we are asking for you to teach us about it so that we can pass. Just be, how can I be happy if I have no one to teach me how to stop being sad? To be able to break the stigma on mental illness, we have to be able to understand it. Raise your hand if you've ever had a really bad stomachache. All right, and when you do you feel like going for a long bike ride? No. Okay. How about hanging out with a really big group of people, going dancing?
No.
Can you even get out of bed most of the time?
No.
All right, so am I safe to say that when we are feeling really sick, we lose the motivation to do anything? All right, well, mental illnesses are just like that. However, instead of a stomachache or a sore throat, it's a chronic anxiety or a chronic sadness. It affects how we feel, our motivation levels, our self-perception, and our everyday habits. Like a stomachache, mental illnesses are, evidently, illnesses, which over 40% of high school students suffer from. However, unlike mental illnesses, you can talk to someone about your stomachache without feeling judged or criticized, or like your feelings are being put up for debate. Some mornings, students aren't even able to get out of bed because of how bad their mental health is. So how do schools expect us to do homework or even attend school sometimes when literally brushing your teeth can become an accomplishment? Through the failure of being taught how to recognize and understand the symptoms and effects of a mental illness, teens are less likely to understand why they are suffering and are less inclined to seek help. While conducting my research, I spoke to 12 adults, all born before the year 2000, on their experience with mental health in relation to their school systems. 5 out of 12 of them were actually diagnosed with a mental illness, but were only diagnosed much later on in life. However, 12 out of 12 of them all said that they had absolutely zero resources or education available to them in their mental health district in their school, and that the conversation on mental health was viewed as weird and abstract and a bit touchy. In the modern day, factors like the rise of social media and increasingly isolating social standards based on personality, looks, and social status have allowed mental health issues to thrive among teens. However, there is a fundamental lack of new resources being implemented into the school system that help fight this crisis. Now, I'm not talking about school counselors or therapists. I'm talking about education. To put it shortly, if we can't recognize or understand that we have a problem, how can we seek help? That's like looking for something you didn't know you lost. So there is evidently something wrong when mental illness has reached an all-time high among teens, and yet the resources and education available to us are almost identical to that of the 20th century. The stigma also affects how students view one another, as we tend to subconsciously believe that we all have the same levels of sadness and the same levels of happiness. We have no idea how to understand or help in a situation where someone is mentally suffering, and will often get frustrated or annoyed, which can lead to strained relationships and leave the person who is already suffering feeling more alone. It is a primal behavior to fear or reject the unknown, especially when the unknown is not something we can physically see or touch. How sad do I have to be to have depression? Am I just stressed, or do I have anxiety? There is no biological scale to be able to measure how we are feeling. But by being taught to understand the symptoms and effects of a mental illness, teens are more likely to understand why they're suffering and are more likely to seek help, and which also inspires early detection. Our goal with this speech is to convince and inspire the school systems and government to invest more money and input more resources into the mental health sector of education. Aside from instituting classes to teach us about our mental health, our suggestion for the school systems is to input and advertise mental health days. While writing this speech, we had a lot of adults disagree with this idea, as they believe that this would impede an individual's ability to integrate into a predominantly capitalist society in the future, as if you miss a day because you're sad or you're anxious, you just don't get paid. And while we completely understand that, well, you snooze, you lose, we would like to consider this idea from a different point of view. By allowing students to take a day to focus on their self-care and their mental health, The school board is actively providing students with a time to become attuned to their mental and psychological needs and to develop coping strategies for the future. Therefore, when they make their debut into the working world, they will be able to throw coping strategies in their life and within themselves to be able to either prevent a depressive episode emerging or to help cope with it. Now, one could also argue that teens may abuse this day to just skip school and go to sleep. And once again, while we completely understand this and that could be a realistic possibility, we would also like to consider this from a different perspective. I would like to give you guys a fact. So, many studies have shown that a huge portion of kids who actually are skipping school are suffering with an untreated mental illness. And the reason why this is a fact is because so many kids who are struggling mentally are less inclined to care about their future or about being motivated or about any sort of success that can happen that isn't in the immediate present, and are more just focused on surviving and coping with their current reality, which is obviously not a great situation right now. So if we are able to teach kids early on in life about how they are feeling, why they are feeling it, and how to deal with it, once again, we can inspire early detection and we can allow kids to get help so that we can almost raise the number of kids that will be attending school and lower the amount of kids that are skipping school, because more kids will have a healthier relationship with their mind and are more likely to care about their future and are less worried about how they're feeling in the present. Speaking on relationships, having a healthy and building your emotional maturity through your mental health is extremely important to having healthy and beneficial relationships with other people. If we are more emotionally mature and we help to build our minds, our dialogue and communication with our partners, parents, peers, or coworkers or friends will be much healthier and a lot more empathetic as it is now founded on the idea that not all suffering is physical. So, is it Ian's story? Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to be asking Ian to jump up on stage. So he's going to be talking about his experience with mental health in relation to the school system and shed some greater light with a personal story. Thank you.
As a grade 8 hockey and lacrosse player, I never wanted to be the weakest, I never wanted to be the slowest, and I definitely did not want to be the kid who was struggling with mental health. Well, in April of my grade 8 year, I tore my ACL and was sidelined for the rest of the season, all of the summer, and a bit of hockey season as well. I went to school feeling like less of a person. I didn't feel like myself. From then on, I was a whole new man that I didn't want to be. I was someone who looked down on myself because of something out of my own control. I became very sad every day, and I just put myself on a downward trajectory that I had no intention of stopping. As I went into the summer, I still kept it to myself. I didn't want to talk to anyone. I didn't want to vocalize my issues because I did not want to be weak. I didn't want to be someone who was pointed out. So I had a role model at this camp I went to, someone who was a varsity athlete, good hockey, good football player, played lacrosse as well, someone who I wanted to be in the next 4 years. Well, when I was bawling my eyes out on a camping trip one day in the corner, he came up to me and just shared his story. He listened to me, he just sat there and listened, but he also told me that he also was struggling. Everyone out there has something that they're going through, and it just took someone telling me that they had something as well to help myself. Well, it didn't quite help immediately, as I was more of an ignorant grade 9 kid who didn't really know what was going on. But I kept going downhill as I became a freshman in high school. I didn't want to show up to class. I didn't want to do my homework. So having the pressure of always having to show up day in and day out and put in the work didn't help. I needed to take a step back, but I had no ability to do so. So in December of my grade 9 year, I hit the peak of that. I burst, and it ended me up in the hospital with a few other kids just like myself. Talking through my issues with therapists and other kids my age, developing strategies to help this not happen again, really helped me. So as I moved forward, becoming a better and better person, I came here. And at Stanstead, I deal with seasonal depression just like everyone else. So this year in February, when once again my grades started going downhill and I didn't want to hang out with everyone, I knew that something was going on. I just didn't know what it was. So I took a mental health day in order to establish, what was going on and take a step back. I was able to talk to someone and really look at the issues going on and help address them, develop strategies within my own daily routine to help myself move forward and become a better person. So with the implementation of mental health days, it really helps push our students forward as more advanced people and help develop our students to be better people when they leave the school system.
Ian's story is an example of what can happen when the importance of mental health is ignored. As Ian's friend, I could not have asked for someone more dedicated and kind, and I'm so grateful that he survived. However, some may say that Ian was lucky, but so many people are not. It should not have to come to this point, though. Mental health education and resources should be available and mandatory for all students and people in the school system. This is crucial for the survival of our generation. And if we input enough resources and education into our school systems to be able to fight this epidemic, we can create a progressive and a better society where mental stomach aches aren't as frequent. Thank you.